All right. We are back. You are tuned in to the JWJ podcast. Thank you for tuning in. It is your boy, James Washington, and I'm here with my dude, my best friend, my ace, Mr. Shane Thomas. How you doing today, buddy?
To do what it is, great day to be alive, though.
Of course, absolutely. I'm loving it. We're having a blast. Look, we're about to wrap up. We're on the last leg of our 2022 bro trip, I guess you could call it. As you guys know, if you listen to the previous episodes, we are currently in Knoxville, Tennessee. We came up to attend the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which just wrapped up a few hours ago. If you tuned into ESPN, you might have actually caught some of it. I didn't realize it was going to be on ESPN until I got the alert on my phone while we were at the ceremony. So we're going to just jump in, get right to it. We're going to talk about how the day went and just give you guys some of the things that we experienced today. And we had quite a bit of fun today, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. Wouldn't you say so, man?
Oh yeah, man, it was a blast. I mean, we it was everything we expected, considering the fact that we almost died the first day and never even made it over here. And we made it to Saturday, and yeah, so I'm excited, man. It worked out as well as it could work out, and we'll tell you why at the end of this episode as to why it went from just being a great time to being something we'll remember forever.
Forever, for the rest of our lives. When I say that this day could not have possibly turned out any better, make sure you stay tuned, because yeah, we're gonna make you wait. Trust me, it's worth it. It was amazing. But we're not gonna waste too much time. We're gonna go ahead, get you guys in, get you guys out. We want to make sure that number one, you're entertained, but number two, you're informed. So we're gonna hit you guys with a lot of quick facts. We're going to hit you with our experiences in between. And we're just going to, like I said, get in and get out. We're going to have some fun with this. So we're going to start right off from this morning. The first event that we attended at 11 o'clock this morning, there was an autograph session at the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. So Shane and I got up this morning, we got dressed, headed on out there, and it was a pretty reasonable sized crowd. I mean, nothing super excessive. If you compare the two, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame is not as large as the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. However, I'm sure Shane would agree with me that actually tended to do us a little bit better. It helped us to actually soak in a little bit more of what there was to see. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I think it was just a combination of, there was so many things packed into it. There was so much history wrapped up in such a nice package that we could just sit and look at and take it all in. But it was also, knowing that, you had a lot of these Hall of Famers around, that were, signing autographs, things like that. I mean, I think it was more of just an experience in full, to be honest.
Yeah. So speaking of, the legends that were there signing autographs, as we got to the back of the facility, we noticed that there was it was a decent line, a pretty long line in the back, but there was a circular platform in the back of the venue where a lot of the inductees were actually seated signing autographs. And of course, you're probably saying, well, duh, you said it was an autograph session. I know, but getting there and, expecting it compared to actually seeing it's two very different things. So we walk up, we're just checking out the sites and everything. And we saw some pretty memorable things. Again, we'll touch on that. But we grabbed, they're actually giving us these, I guess these small posters that have some, facts about each of the inductees. And at the bottom, there's this empty, white section of the poster that was meant for collecting autographs. So we start going around the platform, and the first thing we come to is this organization that we saw called Legends of the Ball. And these ladies were something else. Just in talking to them for maybe 5 minutes, I learned so many things that I did not know. For one, we talked to them. A lot of them were actually members of the WBL. And a lot of you might not be aware of what the WBL is. Shane, you want to tackle the WBL, or you want me to go ahead with that?
I'll go ahead. I think you had the best conversation with them. I thought that was really cool. I just enjoyed listening to y'all talking, honestly.
All right, no problem. I'll go ahead and take that. So the WBL stands for it. They actually threw the P out of it, but it's the Women's Professional Basketball League. And this league was, as the name states, a professional hoops league for women that ran for 3 seasons from 1978 to 1981. And one of the things that we learned while we were there was one of the ladies that was involved with this league was actually the one that was responsible for implementing a smaller basketball for women. Because if we're going to be honest, if we look at genetics, we look at nature, women's hands do tend to be smaller than men's. And it was noticed that a lot of the ladies were, meeting difficulty. The game was different for them playing with a bigger basketball. So the women's professional basketball league, the WBL, actually used a smaller basketball before the world had ever heard of a WNBA. It was an incredible deal. And we actually met, like I said, some very remarkable ladies that sat with us and talked with us. They were so open, so inspiring, and they hit us with so much information. One of them, I do have to shout out South Georgia, because one of the ladies that was there, come to find out, has actually spent some time coaching at I know she said Doherty High School. Anybody that's in South Georgia knows about Doherty. I want to shout out my brother-in-laws, because both of them actually attended Westover in Albany. So I know they're familiar with Doherty. But this lady, I want to say her name was Charlene Jackson. She actually spent some time playing in the WBL, and now she's a huge advocate for, women's hoops and just equal rights, Title IX. She was very outspoken, very willing to help us. And Shane, I know you can agree with me. The ladies were just very, very eye-opening with the information that they were giving us, and just the enthusiasm that they were hitting us with this morning.
Yeah, you could just feel the passion in their voices when they were telling us about, these things. And I mean, it wasn't like there was this long conversation, but just in the tidbits they were giving us, and the information they wanted to give us, you could feel the passion. Just the entire thing. I mean, as soon as you walk in there, it's just different. You can feel a certain, I don't know, it's like you can just feel the level of how much this means to people when you walk in. And to just talking with them, just it's no different. They were like you said, eye-opening, super inspiring about just what they did, and their importance and pioneering that league. And even though it wasn't there for a long time, as we saw like in some of the exhibits at the Hall of Fame, those were, that's still a very important part, very crucial part of, women's basketball history in our country.
Absolutely. So that was the first table that we saw. And I mean, we were already blown away by the time we got there, because like I said, that was in the back of the building. We had walked through and already seen so many different things. I mean, just you think Legends of the Game, and it's similar to the Naismith Hall of Fame. You have, a pair of Lisa Leslie's shoes, hanging up. You have Sue Bird's high school jersey from Christ the King in New York. It's all of these things that, about these women if you follow the game, but just seeing this memorabilia just meant so much. So we talked to the reps of the WBL, the ladies that represented Legends of the Ball, and we make our way around the back, and eventually we get to the list of the people that are being enshrined. And, we this was where things, I believe, really started to get real for us, because we had seen the names on paper, we had seen the photos, but at this moment, these people are standing within 5-10 feet of us. Well, or rather sitting, because it's an autograph session. They're chilling at tables, we're walking around. So we see, some of these Hall of Famers. And like I said, we'll get into them a little bit more, but just people like, Cookie Barron, Paul Sandiford, Debbie Antonelli, who is huge on both Shane and on my radar. And like I said, we'll touch on that more. Becky Hammon actually wasn't able to attend, because if you follow the game, you follow Becky Hammon, you know that she is currently the head coach in the WNBA of the Las Vegas Aces. And her team had a game tonight in Los Angeles at crypto.com arena. You guys make sure to record that, because I don't like saying that. I grew up on the Staples Center era, and that's what I want to keep calling it. I don't like the crypto.com name, and I'm taking that to the grave. But anyway, there was a game in Los Angeles against the Sparks, which the Aces won. Shane, you got the numbers on that over there?
Yeah, so the Aces basically trampled the Sparks today, unfortunately, for LA fans. It was 89-72. Asia Wilson had 35 points, 11 rebounds, and Becky Hammon, picked up another win. They are red hot to start this year, and they're off to a phenomenal start. And Becky Hammon is a big reason why. And we wish that we could have met her. We were definitely looking forward to that, but knowing that she had a game, we understand. So yeah, the Aces went out and handled business in LA, and I'm sure she'll be happy to accept her Hall of Fame induction, knowing that, she didn't have to leave and they ended up winning. So kudos to Becky Hammon for that. Congratulations for that and her induction here on Saturday.
Yes, sir. And I mean, just being so excited about possibly meeting Becky Hammon. Of course, we had looked at the schedule and we both knew it was a possibility that she wouldn't be there, but I wasn't taking the chance. I still went up there rocking my Las Vegas Aces t-shirt. I was still going to be like, hey, if she's here, let me make sure that I'm showing my support. Let me just show the fandom, but like I said, we didn't get to meet her, but we did get to, meet some absolute legends. We got to meet, like I said, Coach Paul Sandiford. We got to meet Coach Bob Schneider, Cookie Barron, Debbie Antonelli. We met Coach Doug Bruno. Again, we'll touch on a little bit more about what makes these people so special here coming up. We met Delisha Milton-Jones. We met Penny Taylor, and Penny gave us some very, very impactful moments over the day. Like I said, we're going to talk about those once we get to the actual ceremony. But once we completed the autograph session, we, as you guys know, if you listened to episode 2, we were up pretty late getting episode 2 completed, because we didn't even start on it until maybe about an hour after the game actually ended last night. So we had to get our notes together, get everything right, get the episode uploaded and all of that. We finally got to sleep. So once the autograph session was over, we were both in agreement. We're like, yo, we're going back to the spot. We're going to get some rest. We got to get a quick nap in before we actually go to the ceremony. So we come back, we're hanging out, and, we get up, we get dressed. The actual induction ceremony started at around 6:00. So we get dressed, we get up, we get out, we get ready. And again, as nature would have it, the GPS wants to play with us again. So we put in the directions to the Tennessee Theater, which is maybe about, I'll say, no more than like a mile from the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. However, there's very narrow streets in that area of town, and there's a lot of parking garages. So we put in the directions for the Tennessee Theater, and it took us directly to a parking garage. So we park in the parking garage, and We get out, we're ready, and we're like, okay, now we're looking for the Tennessee Theater. We're on foot, and the GPS, because we're in this covered garage, is like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you are, and I don't know where I am. So we're sitting here stuck. We're struggling. So we run out of the garage. We're like, maybe if we get in the open, we'll find it. So eventually we get out in the open. We get to where we need to be. We finally get into the theater maybe at about 6:15, and everything was fine and good. We didn't miss any of the inductees, but we did end up missing something that we are both very upset about. Shane, what did we miss?
We missed probably what the biggest thing that we never knew was even happening. So as you know, we're us being in Knox County, the mayor of Knox County is none other than Glenn Jacobs, also known as Kane, the Big Red Machine, from from WWF, WWE. So us being huge wrestling fans, we saw that he was the person. What he gave he gave like the opening thing for the Hall of Fame, and we got there and we're thinking, okay, well, wait, he spoke. We missed Kane. Like how do we show up in Knox County? We're at the Hall of Fame and we miss out on Kane.
And we had been talking about that man from the time we drove up 75 and arrived in Knox County. It was nonstop.
Yeah, and it's just like I'm thinking, okay, immediately I was going back to the hot car when we came up. Like I'm thinking, okay, are we about to blow this again? We missed like half of it. Did we miss like the most important parts? Like so the whole time we're kind of scanning the crowd. I'm like, if some 7-foot dude stands up during this clapping, that's got to be Kate, and it wasn't. I think he probably just gave the speech and bounced out. But yeah, we were upset that we missed him, and but luckily it wasn't the complete hot car moment, and it was only just getting good from that point, actually.
And to be fair, I think now that we're coming up on the end of this trip, it's very easy for us to say, yeah, that nothing about this trip is going to be worse than the hot car moment. I don't know if we brought it up in the last episode, but as crazy as the instrument panel was acting on the way up, suddenly it's wanting to act normal now. I mean, of course, I'm still going to look into that and get that replaced because I'm not trying to take chances. Anybody that lives in the South, it's almost the end of June. We're coming up on late June. You don't want to mess around and take chances with air conditioning. So nobody's about to mess with that.
You don't want to play with your life like that, man. You don't want to play like that. You really don't. It gets hot, man. 90 degrees, about 98. On the heat index, all that humidity, man. I don't think you want to play with your life like that.
What they say, look, it gets so hot in the South, you mess around and see Satan at the stop sign. You don't want to mess with that. So we're definitely going to get that taken care of. But I mean, the rest of the trip has been amazing. So we get to the actual induction ceremony, and I mean, it was, like I said, for what it was worth, a very intimate event. I mean, it was very heartfelt. The speeches that we heard were amazing, very inspiring. I mean, like I said, we talked about, Coach Bob Schneider, Coach Alice Cookie Barron, Paul Sandiford. Paul, funny thing, just to fast forward really quick, after the Hall of Fame ceremony, the actual enshrinement, they had, a little after party over back at the Hall of Fame. So we left the Tennessee Theater, went back to the Hall of Fame, and Shane and I were just standing over, we're just kind of checking out the venue again. And just such an awesome moment. Coach Sandiford actually came back up and started talking to us. Like, we were just standing there, and he made it a point to come and engage in conversation with us. And I think that's one thing that I really enjoyed about this experience at the Hall of Fame is not only did we get to catch an actual enshrinement, but just seeing, a lot of times when you think about celebrities or you think about these major players, major figures, you often get in your mind that they might be too big for, quote unquote outsiders, or people that just aren't necessarily on their level. But we didn't see any of that this weekend. Every single person that we ran into was just so genuine and so kind and so willing to give you the time of day.
And that was the biggest thing. I mean, uh kudos to all the people that we've run into and talked to while we've been here. I mean, just this whole experience since we've been here, people have been very accommodating. People have been very warm to us and treated us really well. The Hall of Famers were phenomenal. I mean, it was, you know, Coach Sandiford coming up to us. I mean, we're just standing there, just hanging out, and he comes over and he probably talks to us for what, 5 minutes, and just really nice guy, really humble guy, and just everybody treated us really well. But I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people asked us like what we were doing there, and I think a lot of them were kind of refreshed that we made it a point to come here just because we're fans, not because we're we had family or things like that. A lot of people were excited to talk to us when we just said we're just super fans and wanted to come here and take this in for ourselves. So shout out to Coach Sandiford for being so open, and all of them actually for being so open and wanting to talk to us and being really warm and accommodating. And nobody was, everybody was really cool, man. Everybody.
Yeah, definitely. It was super awesome. And just like you said, we it was surprising how many people, they approached us and they just immediately assumed that the reason that we were there was because we had a family member being enshrined. And as soon as we told them, we were like, no, we're just basketball fans. We just love the game. So we made the trip. They were like, oh, that's awesome. That's so sweet. And that's so cool. And this and that. And then they're like, so where are you guys from? And we told them, we're from Georgia. They looked surprised. They were like, you guys drove here all the way from Georgia? Of course, Shane had to make a longer drive than I did. Shane had to drive about 4 hours to get to where I was. And then I picked up and drove the other 3.5. But to us as fans of the game, that wasn't much of a drive. We were going to do something based on the sport that we love. I mean, this is just something that we truly enjoy. And it was inspiring. It was heartwarming, but I kind of touched on it on the last episode. To me, honestly, it almost hurt a little bit because it was almost like even the family members of the enshrinees were surprised that there were people that wanted to come simply for support. And that's kind of what I was getting at on the last episode is there's so many times where it's always about, oh, the WNBA doesn't do this, or the women don't do this like the men do. And I'm like, at the end of the day, why does that matter? They're playing the same game that the men play, and they love it the same way. So they deserve the same support. And Shane, I'm sure you agree with me. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's we talk about it all the time. It's more than a game. It's the love of the game. And that's what brought us here.
Yeah. And I think I think us being there kind of endeared us to a lot of them just because, you know, the, I think their passion, like I mentioned earlier, you can feel their passion when you speak to them. Anybody that's a fan of basketball in this area, especially the people that we ran into at the Hall of Fame, like they care about this. They wouldn't be there if they didn't care. And I think meeting people or having them meet us and understand that we care about it and we wanted to be there and take it all in and enjoy it. Like just in terms of where we are in sports society when it comes to women's basketball, like it takes that level of education and understanding it and caring about it. Like, we've talked about this in personal conversations in the past. Like if I'm getting ready to teach my daughter how to play basketball, I'm not about to, show her the LeBron James tape. I'm not about to show her the Vince Carter putting the arm in the rim. Now, it'd be nice if she could do that, but I'm not going to, push that. obviously, but like women play the most pure form of our sport that we love. It's not about how high you jump or anything like that. If you want to learn the fundamentals and how to play the game the right way, watching women's basketball is probably the easiest way to do that. And I think, as far as women's basketball has come, and we've seen everything that we saw at the Hall of Fame, and these great players and great coaches, there's still so much room for improvement. There's still so much more that the sport could gain from all this. And it's just, it starts with having more people that care about the game, and are willing to give it their time. I think we're only scratching the surface of how important and how visible women's basketball can be in our country and in our society. I think we're starting to see that start to turn the other way, and there's still so much more to be done. So I'm glad that we were able to talk to these people and feel the passion that they have for it, and also be able to share in that passion and wanting to see the success of the sport and seeing how far it's come.
Yeah, and just going back off of what you said about, the women's game I agree with you. It is the purest form of the sport. And it's funny because we didn't actually talk about it while we were there, but I feel like I have to point it out, and I'm sure you saw it too because we think so much alike. But when we went to the Naismith Hall of Fame, on the bottom floor, they had the court with, the peach baskets and everything, and you could shoot around and do all of that. And a big difference with the Women's Hall of Fame is, I'm sure you noticed it just like I did. On one side of the court, they have wooden stanchions against the wall where you can practice behind the back passes and chest passes and this and that. And then on the opposite side of the floor, sure enough, there's baskets in the middle for jumpers and free throws and this and that. But on the other side of the floor against the wall, they actually had a dribbling, like an obstacle course. So that wasn't something you saw at the Naismith Hall of Fame. At the Women's Hall of Fame, they're even showing you there because another big thing, while we were there, most of the volunteers for the event today were young teenage AAU female basketball players. There were young women there that are already involved in the game, being exposed to this life-changing event. And on the bottom floor, it's not just about jumpers. It's not just about putting the ball in the basket. It's about doing what else is necessary on the court. It's about making the right pass. It's about protecting the ball. It's about how you handle the ball. And that is so important. Just like you said, Shane, I mean, the fundamentals cannot be ignored. And just walking that bottom floor of the Women's Hall of Fame, you saw that in full strength.
And let that be a lesson to all of our young hoopers, male, female, whatever. No matter how physically gifted you are, eventually someday you could have something happen. You may have an injury that slows you down, or you can't jump as high. Let this be a lesson that your physical tools are one thing, your physical gifts are one thing, but you cannot cut corners. You have to master the fundamentals to reach other levels that you get to. Look at Steph Curry. He's the greatest shooter of all time because he works on it every single day. And he's also one of the greatest ball handlers we've ever seen because he works on his ball handling every single day. And that's important. And I think that aspect of the game, I really think if people kind of open their eyes to it and kind of embrace it, I think they'll understand that, these people put a lot of work, these ladies put a lot of work into their craft to be able to perform at the highest level of the sport. And, I think that's a big kind of learning curve that we have to look at. Cause I mean, just looking at how the game is played now on the men's level, it's a lot more European. Look at the last couple MVPs have been, the last four really, right? I mean, Giannis went 2 times, Jokic went 2 times. You have European MVPs. If you told somebody in 1990 that we would have 4 straight MVPs be from Greece and Serbia, they would lose their minds.
And if we're being honest, I mean, you bring up Giannis, you bring up Jokic, and I got to shout out your boy right now because early in the season, I mean, even Luka was in that talk. So, I mean, it's very widespread. I totally agree with you. You know, the European form of the game, the European style of play is making its way over, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And that kind of twist that we're seeing where, it's one of those deals where you're looking at how the game is evolving. And that's a big part of what we're talking about as far as women's basketball. A lot of this is evolution. A lot of it is, um, you know, different different ideas kind of coming into the game. And we're just kind of, it's awesome to see that, and it's awesome to see the growth of the game. If you look at the women's game, we're having more we're seeing scoring go up. We're seeing more talented players overall. I mean, look at Asia Wilson, what, 35 and 11. I mean, we've met Sue Bird, arguably the greatest women's point guard of all time. So I mean, seeing a lot of these players still hang on and still be super productive is cool. Seeing the game take on a more fundamental, more versatile style from top to bottom, even in the women's game, you're starting to see it. I mean, look at Liz Cambage. She's 6'8" and she's shooting threes. If you had looked at that 10 years ago, there weren't a whole lot of, taller girls, centers that would step out and shoot threes. So the evolution of the game is being seen both on the men's side and the women's side. And I think as long as we embrace that evolution and embrace that grasp of the fundamentals and seeing the purity of the game, both from the women's standpoint and the men's standpoint, I think basketball is going in a really, really good direction on both sides for sure.
It's a beautiful game at the end of the day. It's a beautiful game, and it deserves the same attention no matter who is playing it. I think we can all agree on that aspect. Male, female, it does not matter. It is a beautiful game, and the women deserve the same respect as the men do, because everyone thinks that because of a difference in gender, the game is going to be different. And to an extent, you're right. But that doesn't mean that the game itself suffers. It's still a beautiful game, no matter who is playing it. And I think that's what we both try to get across to anybody that we discuss hoops with on a regular basis is just if it's NBA, if it's WNBA, it doesn't matter. It's basketball, and it is a beautiful game. It's a beautiful game. And a lot of the inductees tonight during their speeches, they touched on that. They talked about just how impactful everyone has been in their lives, and how their lives have been shaped by mentors, both male and female, simply because of a love of the game. We mentioned some of the inductees. I want to specifically mention, and I think we're kind of both in agreement here. There were three speeches in particular that just really, really stuck with us. The first one I want to talk about, who ironically was actually the one that rounded out the night, was Coach Doug Bruno. Coach Bruno was he if you don't know him, Coach Bruno coaches at DePaul in the Big East. He has won Coach of the Year in the Big East, I think 3 times, 4 times, something like that. But he hit his speech. He comes up and, of course, everybody had, the mainstays in your speeches. It's always good to hear inductees, credit their religion. Everybody, thanked God for getting to where they were. Everybody wanted to stick with family. And one thing that I really loved about Coach Bruno's speech, and Shane, I'll let you touch on it, right after. But I think my favorite thing about Coach Bruno's speech was, I believe they also said he's won 6 gold medals as a USA basketball coach as well. And he said something that I think will stick with anybody that really appreciates this game. He said, whenever someone comes up to me and they try to give me respect for winning 6 gold medals, the first thing that I tell them is I didn't win anything. I just happened to be the head coach when these ladies won 6 gold medals. So that comment alone, as a man coaching a woman's sport, that's what we need to see. That's the kind of respect that needs to be given to the players. He didn't want any of the credit. And I know we hear that from a lot of coaches all the time, but the way that our world is shaped right now and the way that things are going, I mean, to hear a male coach say that about his female players, it means a lot. And you could tell just listening to his speech that he meant that with his whole heart.
Yeah, and I mean he was also, not only was he super, not only was he really cool to listen to, it was the humility of it all. I mean, I think he said what uh in his coaching career, he's won all these games, and he's like, they're about to put me in the Hall of Fame, but then I think about where I am here, and I look at Gino Auriemma, and I look at the great Pat Summitt. He said, I'm about to go in the Hall of Fame. I never beat them. He's like, I went.
Yes.
Basically, if you took my record against Pat Summitt and Gino, it was 0-40 combined, and y'all are about to put me in the Hall of Fame. I thought that was really cool. But Coach Bruno, he's done a lot. Like he coaches at DePaul. He's got 798 wins, and he like you mentioned, the 6 gold medals. Coaching Team USA. A guy that has every reason to toot his own horn if he wanted to, and I like the humility of it. I've talked to plenty of coaches just in my own career, and it's always cool when they can talk about the kids they helped along the way. And a lot of coaches will tell you, I never grabbed a rebound, I never scored a point. It's all about, if I won 600, if yeah, they'll credit me with 600 wins or whatever, how many wins it is. But and we talked about it with Coach Sandiford as well. He said, a coach is only as good as their players, and a lot of times they get charged with, turning chicken, what, into chicken salad. And you got to have players, and a coach is only as good as those players.
And just to throw it in on Sandiford, you're absolutely right. I also wanted to point out Sandiford incredibly humble, because it's worth mentioning that he spent 25 years as a collegiate head coach. And over those 25 years, this man had almost a 71% win record. He went 453 and 189. So that's 453 wins against 189 losses. He went to the Final Four with his team 3 times, and also led his team, Western Kentucky, to 12 NCAA tournament appearances over that time. So when you think of that success, it's always so comforting, so relieving to deal with a coach that understands that it doesn't come from them. It comes from what it is, it comes from the players. It comes from who it is that they are actually working with. And I can't remember, Shane, maybe you do, which coach said it tonight. But another very memorable line tonight, one of the inductees made it a point to say, I don't coach basketball, I coach young women. And that to me is tremendous, because one of the things that I always tend to, if I ever see something inspiring on, online that involves sports, I love to repost things with the hashtag of more than a game, because that at the end of the day, that's all that basketball is. That we're just here for, we're just here for 48 minutes to have some fun. We're here to go out here and compete, do what we do. But at the end of the day, you can learn life lessons from this. You can learn responsibility, accountability. You can learn dependability, teamwork, camaraderie, being able to be there for someone. So to hear these coaches that fully understand it is not about me, that's just something that is awesome to hear. And we got to hear that firsthand on multiple occasions tonight.
Yeah, and just kind of going from one inductee to another. I mean, we go from Doug Bruno, a super successful coach, and then we go to Debbie Antonelli, who's somebody that is, she's been around the game forever. I mean, she's a recognizable face when you talk about commentary, when you talk about being an analyst and things like that. She's going into her 34th year doing this in media. I mean, she's won 2 Emmys. She's won the Gracie Award for her work in broadcasting basketball. I mean, she's done a lot of things. And, as a player, she talked about, coming up, how she was just so competitive. Everybody in her family was so competitive, and that fire and that, that passion for what they do. Talking about, there wasn't a gym in the city they lived in that they didn't have the key to, and they never got busted sneaking into a gym just to get extra work. So, I think she talked about how there's certain people that don't like her. I thought that was interesting, because as a person that's a media member that works in it, we get a lot of kind of unfair things said to us, or we get treated a certain way. And I understand it in a way, because media is, follow me on this, media is basically customer service, because what we do directly kind of serves the community. So it's like we work in a customer service kind of, you're doing this for me kind of deal. And a lot of people kind of lose sight of that. And when a lot of times we make enemies with the stuff we say.
I totally agree with that.
And I think, and she talks about just how rewarding her career has been, and all the things she's been able to do, and how it's impacted her life positively and her family and things like that. And, I thought her speech was really, really good. I think she might've been the first speech, actually. And I really, really enjoyed her.
Yeah, she was first. And I actually thought for a while they were going in alphabetical order, but then they totally threw me off when Coach Bruno was last. But I think with the exception of him, it was all in order. But I think that easily the two that meant the most to me. I mean, I know, of course, Antonelli hit us. That some of the stuff that she had to say. We've definitely been through it. I know you more so lately than me. But I think that the two speeches that probably hit me the hardest tonight, first off, we have to go. We have to talk about former Spark, Delisha Milton-Jones. One of the most humble individuals that I think I have ever met in my life. And yes, I do have to say that we've met, because I'm gonna brag. We got to talk to her and interact with her on multiple occasions today. So yes, I'm bragging. If she ever hears this, shout out to Delisha. You were a heck of a player, but you're an even better person. You heard it here first. Dealing with Delisha, I mean, the things that she has on her resume: she's a 2-time gold medalist in the Olympics, 2-time WNBA champion with the LA Spark. She won back-to-back rings in 2001 and 2002. And you wouldn't know any of this if you crossed her in the street and met her face to face. Her speech today, she just gave us so many things from a human standpoint. And I think what I really loved about her presentation, about her speech tonight, was, of course, having the journalism background. She took the time to frame her speech as if it was, she said, a movie script. And she said that her script was being written by the greatest script writer ever, God. So she makes it a point to, again, credit her faith, credit her religion, which I always respect. I always have appreciation for. But she gave us so many tidbits about her life that you never would have known if you don't dig deeply. And the one that hit me the hardest, and again, I feel like Shane, you'll probably agree with me here. The one that hit me the hardest, she said that when she was 11 years old, she said she drowned, literally drowned. She said she was at the pool. She hit her head on the side of the pool, fell into the water, and actually went into a seizure while she was in the water. And she credited, I hate right now that I cannot remember that lifeguard's name. I feel horrible right now.
I think it was Michelle Wiggins. I believe that was the name.
Oh, shot. See, my shooter on the wing over here. I like Michelle Wiggins. And now that you say that, I think you're absolutely right. She took the time to credit Michelle Wiggins, the lifeguard that noticed her in the pool at the bottom of the pool and saved her life. So this woman would not have been, she said 36 years has passed since that moment. And she made it a point to recognize something that had nothing to do with her basketball career. She made it a point to mention something from her personal life and gave that full credit to let this woman know, to let Miss Wiggins know that if it was not for her, this chapter would have never been written. It was funny because earlier in the day during the autograph signing, we noticed that there were these people walking around. They all had on matching white t-shirts with these funny, logos on the front. And we could never get close enough to see what was on the shirt. But we found out later the family actually had shirts made for Delisha Milton-Jones. They all had a crest on their chest that said DMJ, and they were all rocking the same shirt. They were all at the induction ceremony, and she made it a point to call them out. And when I tell you the place erupted to the point to where you thought it was everybody, no, it was her family. It was just her family that was showing her so much love. It was incredible. It was such an awesome moment.
Yeah, man. And that was one moment, I think, when she mentioned her nearly dying, having a seizure and being at the bottom of that swimming pool. Like, I think everybody just kind of, you could almost feel the air be sucked out of the building for a second, because everybody's just like, whoa. And a lot of people, it's almost become kind of cliche at this point when people are accepting things or things like that. The first thing they say is, I'm not supposed to be here. And just looking at her body of work, what she's been able to accomplish. I think right now she's currently the head coach at Old Dominion. And you think about all the things, she played 17 years in the WNBA, but at 11, she could have lost her life. Think about all the opportunities that she's been able to take advantage of because somebody saw that she was in trouble and they literally breathed new life into her and brought her back from a very precarious situation. I thought it was riveting, and just getting a chance to meet her and talk to her. I mean, what a beautiful soul that Delisha Milton-Jones is. I mean, her personality is infectious. She was super nice to us. I think we had multiple pictures with her. We had a chance to just talk to her, and she just awesome personality. And even though it was only like for split seconds, she's already like one of my favorite people, like already one of my favorite people I've ever met. And she's awesome. And I'm just glad that we had a chance to meet her and hear that story, because a lot of us think that it's ready made and that it's here and they didn't have to go through anything. They had to work hard, but all the stories tend to sound the same, but it's because a lot of that work is the same. You have to put in a lot of the work, and a lot of times it takes luck. It takes good fortune. And luckily, we're lucky that we had a chance to meet Delisha Milton-Jones and hear her story and be grateful that not only is she still here, but she can continue to shine her light on the world and inspire people as well.
Absolutely. I don't think I could have said it any better myself, man. It's just meeting her was definitely a bright light on the day. I mean, she just has such a humble spirit, just and such a friendly persona. She, from the time we walked up, it was funny because during the autograph signing that morning, we handed our posters over, and the first thing she did was she thanked us for being there. And I think we both almost in unison looked at her and we're like, no, thank you. Like we wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for admiration and following the careers of women like you. You're not here for us. We're here for you. You've earned this moment. So we wanted to make sure also that we showed our appreciation, and I think that we both did a very good job of that today. We both made it very clear that, you know, today is the day to celebrate you. Like this is all about you. So you don't need to thank us for anything, because we would, you know, there's reasons that you say you wouldn't be here. We probably wouldn't be at this Women's Basketball Hall of Fame if it wasn't for people like you. If it wasn't for careers of women like you, we wouldn't have had inspiration to even want to be here. Like, we followed your career. We're fans. The tail end of Delicia's career actually was spent with the Atlanta Dream. So, I mean, we've been watching her we watched her for almost 20 years. So, I mean, it's comforting to see that, you know, stardom doesn't corrupt. And she took all of hers with incredible humility. And just like Shane said, I totally agree. I was already, you know, at least keeping an eye. I wouldn't go as far as to say I was a huge fan, because I mean, I watched her, but it wasn't, you know, just a super following. But after today, oh, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan, especially when you can meet somebody that's talented on the court and they're so humble off of it.
And the last thing that I'll point out about Delisha Milton-Jones is the overwhelming support and the love between her and her husband. It was pretty cool. She gives her speech, a riveting speech, and you know, everybody's giving her a standing ovation, and she gets back to her seat, and her husband, you know, usually you see it, everybody, you know, you might hug, you may kiss or something like that and then sit down. Well, they have their own personal handshake.
Yeah,
and they went through and we're going through that. And you know, I just thought that was really cool. And you know, it was cool to see that. It was cool to know that you could feel the love between them, and she thanked her husband for his support and his love and their relationship. So just Delisha Milton-Jones, if you ever do get a chance to hear this, hopefully you do, just know that you know, meeting you was a positive thing for both me and James, and we're glad and we're fortunate to have met you today.
absolutely. And I feel like that's almost the perfect segue into, you know, the awesome moment, or moments, really, we got to make it plural, that we experienced in the later part of the day. There's one more speech that we need to talk about, and if you've been checking ESPN, you've probably heard some of the key moments from it at this point. But one of outside of Delisha Milton-Jones, one of the most meaningful, the most impactful speeches that we heard tonight was from former member of the Phoenix Mercury, Australian international player, the one of the newest inductees this year, Penny Taylor. Penny Taylor, three-time WNBA champion, three-time WNBA All-Star, and she, like I said, Australian born. She led the Australian team to 2 silver medals in the Olympics, and her speech outside of Delisha easily was the one that meant the most to me as well. This one was for a little bit of a different reason, and I do want to make sure that we touch on this for a moment. Now, with Penny Taylor's, you know, affiliation with the Phoenix Mercury, if you haven't been keeping up, I'm sure a lot of you probably have, even if you're not, you know, avid basketball followers. Before Penny Taylor mentioned anything about herself, about the Hall of Fame, about basketball, period, she brought up the situation that is going on with Phoenix Mercury member Brittany Griner. Now, for those of you that might not be aware, Brittany Griner has been detained in Russia for tonight, according to Penny, was actually 114 days. Now, we do know just to kind of skim the surface, we know that the detainment came off of, drug related issues of finding things on Brittany Griner, this, that, and the other. But now it's turning into what is being looked at as a possible political issue. And it's becoming so much bigger than a simple detainment. And of course, a lot of, fellow WNBA players and, coaches, owners, everybody is trying to fight for a safe return for Brittany to come back home. And that was another thing. Like I said, we go back to the whole, like, it's more than me, it's more than a game. I loved the fact that Penny made it a point before she even talked about herself. She made it a point to bring up how long Brittany has been away and how important it is that we get her back home safely.
And this situation has been, I don't know, it seems like every time I see something on social media about it, a lot of it seems like it's so easy for people to kind of dismiss what's going on. Oh, well, she had some type of paraphernalia on her, and you can't break people's laws in their country and blah, blah, blah. Okay, look, we don't know for sure, like, what all is the situation in terms of what caused the detainment necessarily. We don't know these things. There's people casting aspersions on her character, saying that she's a trash person. And it's like, you don't know these people. It's like, think about it. If it's a member of your family, right? And they have your cousin, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad detained in a faraway land. There's no way for you to really contact them. You're not really worried about what they did. You would like for them to be home, and I think that's had an impact on everybody in that organization. The team hasn't been playing well. There's been a lot of things going on there where people are concerned. And with Brittany Griner, I mean, she's a difference maker on that team. And people can say what they want, and a lot of it probably just deals with her appearance and a lot of ignorance and things like that being spread about. But Brittany Griner is still human, and there's people that care about her and would like to see her back in the fold and back comfortable where everybody knows she's safe. Like, there's so many things that can go on, and she's at great risk. I mean, this is a weird political climate that we're in. There's a war going on with the whole Russia-Ukraine war, and she's there, and it's almost being looked at like she's like a political pawn at this point, like James was touching on. So I think it was super important that Penny started that out and pointed that out, that efforts need to be made to try and get her to safety. And more people are speaking up about this. There's being more efforts to show solidarity and try to strike up interest in this case. And hopefully it ends with Brittany coming back home and being able to do what she does for a living, which is play in the WNBA, play professional basketball. And the only reason she was even in Russia is playing professional basketball, doing what she loves. So, I think her being able to shed light on that and start out with that, it gave way to a phenomenal speech. And, James can tell you more about that, but we were super moved by that.
No, it was a beautiful speech. I mean, super moving, super emotional. I mean, if anybody knows me, I can be a very emotional person. It doesn't take much to move me. I know there's probably a few people listening that are laughing at me right now. All y'all can shut up because we know the truth. I mean, it's whatever. It's okay. But no, in every sense of it. I mean, her speech, Penny's speech, was probably the most moving of me for the night outside of Delisha Milton-Jones. Those two were probably, I'm not going to forget those anytime soon. They were both exceptional speeches. And like I said, for the reason that both of those women made it a point to mention that it is so much more than a game for them. It is their life. It is their bloodline. This is what they live to do. And they want to make sure, both of them in their speeches also mentioned the importance of Title IX, which ensures that there's no sort of discrimination or unfair treatment based on, gender in sports, as far as, women competing on similar playing fields as males. So it was a very big deal just to hear all of them talk about how important of a moment this was. And just going on to Penny, just to try to lighten the mood a little bit. I know we kind of got a little a little serious there. Just to try to lighten the mood a little bit. Another awesome thing that happened today came during Penny Taylor's speech again. Very funny moment. And Shane, I know you already know where I'm going with this one. So of course, like everyone else did during their speeches, Penny Taylor makes it a point to start thanking, the organizations that made her. She thanks the Opals in Australia. She thanks, Sarver and everybody else, from the Phoenix Mercury that brought her in and took a chance on her and gave her the opportunity. And then she goes on and she says, and this was where the crowd erupted, because everybody knows as far as her personal life goes. Penny Taylor says, if it wasn't for, the Phoenix Mercury giving me a chance, I may have never met the love of my life. And if you don't follow, we'll go ahead and fill you in. Like I said, the crowd erupted because if you weren't aware, Penny Taylor has been in a relationship, is actually married to one of, again, we talk about Sue Bird all the time, but if anybody's going to give Sue Bird a run for her money, it is Penny Taylor's wife, who happens to be the starting point guard of the Phoenix Mercury, a Miss Diana Taurasi. So as soon as Penny Taylor mentions Diana, the crowd goes crazy.
And then you realize, oh man, she's actually here. and and you realize Diana Taurasi's here. So us as fans, we were like, yo, she's actually here. I mean, we kind of, not to say we knew she would be there, but Gino Auriemma was also there. And I mean, we didn't expect Gino to be there. And, for Penny to point out Diana and, everybody realizing she was there, everybody was pretty hyped about that and thought that was really cool.
And what made it even better today, well, it's after midnight now for us, but June 11th, which was, of course, yesterday, the day of the enshrinement ceremony, not only did Penny Taylor become enshrined in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, Penny made it a point to mention to the audience that it was also Diana Taurasi's birthday. So everybody goes nuts on that as well. And what also helped to lighten the mood was that Penny made one of the funniest jokes of the night. So we're sitting there listening. She seems like, she's super serious, and almost you could hear her voice cracking. Like she was getting seriously emotional. And next thing you know, she's standing at the podium, thanking Diana for everything that she's done for her. And she cracks the remark. She says, Diana, I love you. And if you keep working hard, keep in mind, Diana Taurasi is one of the greatest players in WNBA in women's basketball history, period. And she just turned 40 years old. Happy birthday, Diana. But she says, Diana, if you keep working hard, maybe one day you could be standing up here where I am. So we're cracking up because, of course, the humor behind it, anybody that follows women's basketball, that literally the only thing that's keeping Diana from being in that Hall of Fame is the fact that she's still an active player. She is amazing on the court. So Penny finishes her speech, and while she was thanking Diana, I look over at Shane and I was like, hey, are you noticing her face? And Shane is like, what are you talking about? And I said, have you noticed that while Penny is talking about Diana, it doesn't look like she's looking at a camera. It looks like she's looking in the audience. So that was when we noticed, like when she goes back to her seat, I kept eyes. I was hawking. I don't care. I'm not afraid to admit it. I was like, don't let me find out Diana Taurasi is in this building right now. So she goes to sit down. And as soon as she sits down, I look just over Penny's shoulder, and there is Diana Taurasi. So I was immediately on edge. I looked at Shane. I was like, hey, Shane, I'm telling you right now, we're not leaving here without a picture with Diana Taurasi. So as soon as the event ended, like I said, Coach Bruno was, the final enshrinee. So as soon as the event ended, we both stood up and we both start watching, and we noticed that they're starting to head for the exit. So I'm not afraid to admit it. This could possibly be a once in a lifetime thing. So I stand up. I'm like, hey, Shane, they're heading out. I'm like, let's go. And as soon as we get through the doors, we see Penny Taylor. She actually gets stopped by another group of fans that are asking for a picture. And I was like, Shane, perfect. Here we go. I was like, as soon as I see Diana, it's a wrap. So Diana comes out not too long after Penny does, but she gets stopped by another fan on the other side. And she's taking the picture. Penny finishes. I'm like, look, one is not leaving without the other. So I was like, I got to run some interference. I go over and I tap Penny on the shoulder. I'm like, excuse me, Miss Taylor. And mind you, we had just seen her earlier in the day. She even took a picture with us earlier in the day. So I had to think about how I was going to wing it. I was like, hey, I was like, I hope this isn't too much. I know, we got a picture with you earlier, and I told Shane, I thought it was super dope. As soon as I said, we got a picture with you earlier, she said, oh yeah, I remember you guys. I almost jumped out of my skin. I was like, that's so awesome. But yeah, so I was like, would it be too much to ask, if it's not too much trouble, could we possibly get a picture of you and Diana together? Could we get a picture with both of you guys? And it was like no hesitation. Again, back to that hospitable environment, just just the personalities of the ladies there. Penny was all for it. And as soon as she said yes, she turned around and she was like, babe, come here. And Diana turns around and starts walking that way. I tried not to go crazy. According to Shane, I did a pretty good job. So she comes over and she's like, hey, we're going to get a picture with these guys. And Diana's like, all right, cool. No hesitation. This is one of the greatest basketball players on the planet. And as soon as her wife says, hey, let's get a picture with them, she's just like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, and the coolest part, like I said, it was super like chill. It was laid back completely. Like I was thinking, okay, there's gonna be some reticence, people gonna be kind of, should I do this, whatever. And she just comes right over, takes the picture. And the funniest part about all of it is, me, I've known James for more than 10 years now, and I'm sure if y'all listen to the first episode, about the whole meeting people and freaking out and everything, it was almost about to happen. Just let the record show that James almost went, oh God, and it almost happened.
I'm going to argue. I don't know about that. I don't know. We don't have any record.
Well, it'll be in my personal record book that James almost freaked out. There was a mini hop. There was a mini hop of jubilation before Taurasi comes over. And then after that, it was fine. We got the picture, and both of us being the basketball fans we are, it's Diana Taurasi. So it was awesome. And then, we go to the after party, and, we leave there. Obviously we're geeking out, heading back to the car, because we're like, man, we just met Diana Taurasi. Like that's dope. So then we get to the after party, we get our food and things like that. And it was more of just more accommodation. We met someone I think that's related to Cookie Barron.
Yeah, it was I think it was Cookie's daughters. It was two of her daughters.
Yeah, and they were really nice people, and they came over, just struck up conversation, and we had good conversations with them. And, they seemed interested in what we do. They were asking questions about us. Again, we had to answer the same question a few times while we were there. Like, hey, what brings you guys here? You got family here, things like that. And we're just like, no, we're just big fans. And they were like, well, we never played basketball. Like our mom did this, but we never played basketball at all. So I thought that was really cool. But I mean, the whole thing, it was like we were kind of experiencing everything again. I mean, we were meeting people and having conversations and things like that. And eventually, some of these Hall of Famers start showing up at the after party. And so, we see Delisha Milton-Jones come in. We see Penny Taylor eventually, and then Taurasi shows up, and we're like, oh, she's here again. It was like it was almost like we didn't just meet them. It was like they're here again.
The funniest thing about that part of the night, so we actually, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we actually didn't even see Penny first. We saw Diana. Diana comes in the front door, and you actually pointed it out. You're like, yo, Diana's here. And at that point, look, just because I hadn't geeked out the first time, in my mind, I felt like I was the man. I was like, oh, that's Diana. That's cool. Like I'm trying to play it so cool. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's what's up. Okay, yeah, she probably hungry because they were serving food there. I'm like, oh, she probably did grab some food or whatever. So I was just playing it like it was no big deal. But of course, in my mind, I'm like, I low key want to be like, yo, let's go clear one of these tables off downstairs and let's just play the 5 or something. Like just come on now, let's do it. But so we're sitting around, and like I said, we had, we were sitting with we were sitting with Coach Cookie's family, with her daughters and everything, and it was an awesome experience. And we eventually, Shane and I, we got up and just started walking around the venue a little bit more, just checking out the sights again. And and we sat down. We were almost to the point where we're like, okay, we're probably going to get out of here. And I came up with the idea because earlier in the day, we took pictures with some of the Hall of Famers. We got a picture with Delisha Milton-Jones. We got a picture with Coach Bruno. We got a picture with Penny Taylor. But during the autograph signing, we were both in, t-shirt and jeans, which, shout out to Shane over there, AKA the man, the myth, the legend. But that's a whole other one there. So I kind of, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to use this as an excuse. So we saw Delisha Milton-Jones again. I made it a point. I walked up to her again. I was like, hey, if it's not too much trouble. And I kind of cracked a joke. I was like, hey, I was kind of, I was t-shirt and jeaning it. I was kind of scrubbing it earlier. I was like, for the actual event, Shane and I both, y'all would call it getting dressed to the nines. We're in slacks and our good shoes and, our button downs and ties and, everything, y'all will see pictures soon. Just make sure you follow us on Instagram at the JWJ podcast. Ooh, shameless plug. All right. So make sure you follow that. You'll see them eventually. But so I used that as an excuse, and we both went over there and got pictures with Delisha Milton-Jones again. But right before that, I actually challenged Shane to a very interesting dare that worked out very, very well for us. What exactly happened with that, Shane?
Yeah, so I'm sitting there, and James said, all right, I got a dare for you. I will go down to the fan shop. I will buy 2 of these souvenir basketballs. But, and Taurasi's down there. Diana's down there. And I'm looking at him like, are you getting at what I'm thinking you're getting at?
He already was ready to fight me.
And I'm like, you're about to do this to me again. Because if y'all remember, the last time we went to a Hall of Fame, I was the one that had to, ask Sue Bird for the picture in the airport.
Hey, we trade off because remember, I asked Mick Foley for the picture first. So I asked Diana for the picture today. Continue.
Yeah, so long story short, I got asked, I will get these basketballs on the condition that you go down there and you ask for the autograph. And immediately I'm like, oh, dude, I mean, we already got the picture. That's good enough. And then he's like, no, we can't do that.
Yo, the look on Shane's face was hilarious. He looked at me like, I ain't gonna lie. He looked at me like he wanted to fight me. He was like, you doing this again?
Yeah, but then after like the initial like, oh, you're about to make me do this, then it was like that big Vince McMahon gulp when Stone Cold comes out. And so I'm like, I actually have to approach one of the greatest basketball players of all time and ask for an autograph. Not a situation that I do every day. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. And then James goes down to the fan shop, and immediately I'm like, I hope she doesn't leave. But then a part of me was like, if she slipped out the door, I'm gonna just act like I didn't see it. And so I'm sitting there, I'm just sitting there plotting. I'm plotting what I'm gonna do, but I'm also plotting my escape at the same time. And so I'm sitting there just waiting. And then I see James come out the fan shop at the, I'm on the mezzanine at the top. James is down on the floor level coming out of the fan shop with this bag. And I'm like, oh, here we go. It's do or die time now. And at the same time, we were like, okay, I'm sitting there like, okay, we gotta hurry, because she's down there taking pictures, but she's also like looking like she's getting ready to leave. Like people starting to file out.
Fourth quarter, as the Miami Heat fans would say, dos minutos.
Yeah, and it got a little bit tense because we're looking down there, and for a minute she left out of view, and we thought, oh man, she slipped out the door, we're about to miss it. And then James spots her again and goes, oh, she's still here, she's down there, holding their kid or whatever. So so we rushed down there. This was before we actually got the picture with Delisha. And so we ran down there, and I'm sitting there just waiting. And eventually, time opens up, and I just go over and say, hey, Diana, can I talk to you for a second? Would you mind signing? And she goes, oh, sure, I don't mind. And she goes ahead and signs these basketballs. And then
no hesitation at all.
And it was so cool, because it's like, this is Diana Taurasi. And it's like, she couldn't have been more laid back and cool about the whole thing. You needed a picture? Oh, cool, I'll take a picture. You want this signed? Cool, I'll sign it. She didn't go, yeah, that'll be $500. Like, she didn't do that. Like, I've been at autograph sessions where people have had to pay, and she was completely gracious with her time, and we appreciate that. And we both have souvenirs that we can cherish forever now. So that was awesome. I almost freaked out. I didn't scream. If anything, I was just gritting my teeth, hoping that, I don't screw it up, or that, she slips out the door. But I was also a little bit pissed that James he basically cornered me, and I had to do this. But, it all worked out in the end.
Look, I wasn't going to do it, but hey, I was like, I made it a point to get the picture. So I was like, yeah, again, big wrestling fans. I was like, it was time for the hot tag. I had to I had to make sure I passed it off. But hey, just like Shane said, it worked out, perfectly. And one, it worked out perfectly because, I mean, of course, we got each other's backs. We make sure we're there. But even more so, it just speaks to the nature of this trip. I mean, this trip for us was about celebrating the inductees. Diana Taurasi was not one of the inductees. Her wife was. And we come up to her, for the photo and then for the autograph, and she did not bat an eye. And I mean, if you follow the WNBA, if you follow women's, Olympic basketball, Diana Taurasi, I think calling her an assassin is an understatement. Like, this woman will get on the court and rip your heart out of your chest, and she'll smile while she's doing it. But if you see her off the court, one of the sweetest individuals I've ever been around in my life. She, like I said, we asked for the picture. She did not hesitate. Asked for the autograph. I don't even think Shane fully had the question out of his mouth before she had her hand out waiting for the Sharpie. Like, it was almost second nature. She did not hesitate. Like, she understood that there was somebody there that appreciated her. And just like that, she was like, boom, I got you. She didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah, and I think a big part of just that thing, I mean, we were talking about it walking out. I'm like there's so much nervousness to go up to this person and ask them to just scribble on something real quick. And it's like, it seems like such a mundane task, but like, it's like, you also want to be kind of respectful of people's time. Like, you don't, like, she was there just kind of to support her wife. You know, she wasn't there for, it wasn't her autograph session. It wasn't her Hall of Fame induction, which, you know, whenever that day is, hopefully we can make it to that as well. But you know, it was cool that she was so giving of her time, but also it's somebody that's also like world famous, and it's also somebody that's not, you know, they're, you know, people coming up to them asking for things isn't something that's foreign to them. And the fact that she was so giving of her time still, you know, we're grateful for that, and we're appreciative of her for that, because, you know, now we have this kind of piece of basketball royalty. You know, we have this, you know, this product of that. You know, we're talking one of the most fierce competitors, one of the greatest winners, one of the most prolific scorers, one of the greatest basketball players walking the face of this earth. And we had a chance to not only get pictures with her, we got a chance to get an autograph from her, and we got a chance to just, you know, kind of just be in their presence. And that's cool. You know, as a fan, that's anybody's dream. It doesn't matter, men's, women's basketball, it doesn't matter.
And after we took the picture, she made it a point to pat me on the back. I don't care. I'm bragging. It didn't mean a thing. I don't care. She pat me on the back. Diana Taurasi pat me on the back. I'm bragging.
You got patted on the back with the same hand that scored what 9,367 or 87 points.
Yep.
And like, I mean, that's huge. I mean, we, you know, just the same way that we met Mick Foley by chance at the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's the same guy that got thrown off a 20-foot high cage, and the first thing they thought was he was dead.
By God.
By God. And like, you know, like that same guy that we saw get hurled off that cage was a guy we met with his kids, and he was completely cool the same way. We ran into Sue Bird at the airport, and she was the exact same way. Like, it's cool to just meet people. It's like, I think so we put people kind of on a pedestal a little bit, but it's still cool to, you know, just meet those people, understand that, yeah, they're human just like us. It's like, we know that, but we don't know that, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's like it's easy when you only see them on television or online. It's easy to build some sort of mystique around them. And it gets to the point, like you said, where they almost don't seem human. And I think that's what I'm enjoying so much about these trips, is that when we do run into these people, we get to see that, yes, they are people. They're here having a good time. Like, you're seeing Diana tonight playing with her son. And it was the most beautiful thing. Like, she's picking him up and this kid is cradling her. And, you know, you just think about it. Like I said, again, we're both, you know, only a year, 2 years in, you know, into parenthood. And just being able to see them in that aspect, it just brings everything back down to earth. And you're like, yeah, they play the game that we love and get to make money playing it, and they're world renowned for it, but they're still human. And just seeing them out of that environment and seeing them get to be just in that environment of being a woman, being a parent, it was just a beautiful thing to see. So all of that, just like I said, made it I think that capped off what made a very enjoyable day, and, you know, a very enjoyable trip outside of Wednesday, a very enjoyable trip for us.
yeah, and um you know, just to kind of transition and piggyback off that, the tail end of that, like, Wednesday started about as long and daunting and frustrating and hot as you could possibly get. And then randomly, you know, once we actually get to Knoxville, things start to work better. Even though things are still a little bit on the fritz, the AC is now working. So we've been able to drive around these last few days, like, you know, not sweating and being nasty and everything. So, you know, thank God for that. But you know, this trip unfortunately is coming to an end in a few hours. We'll be having to check out and then get back on the road. But you know, that just this whole trip was awesome, and I'm glad that we were able to take it. And you know, now we move forward. You know, the reason we came here was to go to the Hall of Fame. We met some great people. We met arguably the greatest of all time, and that's awesome. But now we can turn the page. We still have Game 5 coming up with the NBA Finals, which is Monday. We wish it was Sunday, but it's Monday, and we'll watch that for you guys. We'll be watching that. We'll have our thoughts after Game 5. If you listen to our Game 4 pod, we gave our predictions there. I think both of us went with Golden State in Game 5, so we'll see how that unfolds. But I'm gonna up the ante just a little bit. So James, I'm gonna offer it to you. So you say Golden State wins Game 5. I want you to give me who you think will be the X factor, and I want you to tell me what the score will be.
Ooh, I just got chilly all of a sudden. Okay, so I definitely I'm sticking to my prediction. Like I said previously, first off, I don't think that Boston is going to win another game. I'm sticking with my prediction that it will be the Golden State Warriors bringing home trophy number, what is it, 7 at this point in their history. I think they will be bringing home number 7 after Game 6. I think it's only going to Game 6. Golden State will win 4-2. As far as Game 5 goes, of course, I have Golden State winning. Oh, man. I'm going to say Golden State is going to win by a score of... Look at Shane grabbing his pen. Don't look at me like that.
I'm ready to document this. Mr. Washington, give me that prediction right now.
All right. Golden State is going to win by a score of, all right, they're back at home. I'm going to say 112 to, I feel like it's going to get ugly. I'm going to say 112-97. I'm going ugly.
Oh man. No, I mean, I get that you're a Laker fan and everything. No faith in the green, huh?
Okay, see, the Laker fan in me gets kind of caught both ways here because, of course, I don't like Boston, but at the same time, I'm not rooting for a team in my division either. So I'm stuck either way. But I mean, like I said before, I just feel like there's way too much firepower on Golden State's side. And with that being said, I think the X factor in Game 5, I think we're going to get the opposite of last round, and we're not going to get Game 6 Clay. We're going to get Game 5 Clay. I think that Clay is going to be the factor in this game. I think that the way that he picked up in the second half of Game 4, I think that's going to pick up for him extremely going back home and playing in Game 5. So again, I'm going to say Golden State goes up 3-2. Golden State goes up 3-2 by a score of 112-97. And I think that the X factor in this game is going to be the offensive output of Klay Thompson.
Okay. All right. I like that. There's a lot that I agree with there. I think just piggybacking off our last pod, I think Klay is kind of due for that. I think he showed some signs toward the end of, Game 4 where he started to get that rhythm. He started poorly in that game, 2 for 7. Then he shoots better. I think he was 5 for 10 in the second half, something like that. And really kind of provided that offense there. I'm going to go with Golden State. I don't think it's going to be that ugly. I think I'm going to say Golden State wins 107 to 102. I think it's going to be close.
You think it'll be that close?
I think it'll be that close. I think it'll be competitive. There's going to be some push and pull. 107, 102 Golden State. I want to lean your way with Klay as the X factor, and I think I'll go there. I think Klay is the X factor. He breaks out. We're going to get some Game 5 Klay, and somebody else is going to step up that hasn't yet. somebody's gonna show up to the party that people have been expecting to be at the party. Draymond, it might be you. Just saying.
No, it won't. All right, but no, I'm gonna on that. I'm gonna hit you with another question as well. I want you to answer this one for me. So you're saying it's gonna be a Golden State win by 5. Now, if that's the case, I feel like this has to be asked. What or who is going to be the reason on Boston's side that it ends up that way?
I think we're gonna get a pretty good game from Jason Tatum. I think we're gonna see some improved decision making. I think they've gone back. They're probably gonna look at the film and figure out, okay, how can we put you in the best possible situation? He talked about making better decisions with the ball himself, and just kind of them trying to get back to keeping the ball moving and attacking from different angles.
Okay, all right. So you think basically that what's going to be, even though they'll lose, what's going to be somewhat of a saving grace for them will be a better performance from Jason Tatum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they were probably missing an efficient performance from him, that had he made a few more shots and maybe had 3 fewer turnovers, I think that's just how close I think Boston was, maybe, from, because they were in that game. He had a bad third, and then suddenly they're playing from behind. So I think we're gonna get a better game from Tatum to kind of complement the guys that have been playing well. I think Boston will keep it close, but I think Golden State wins in the end.
Yeah, turnovers were definitely huge, especially from the hand of Jason Tatum. He had 6, I believe, in game 4. So that was definitely a big deal. I also think on top of the turnovers themselves, it's also going to be a matter of making sure that teams are capitalizing on those turnovers, because we did see again that it was still fairly even with that in game 4, as far as points off turnovers. So I feel you, man. We'll see what happens. And I mean, for y'all listeners out there, we will definitely be back. I mean, if y'all are following us now on social media, I mean, I hope you are. If you're not, go ahead and get on that. Again, you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, we're on Spotify. You can find us at the JWJ Podcast. Again, you can find us also individually. You can find myself, James Washington, at Titletown's Mayor. That's TitleTownzMayor. And Shane, where are they finding you at, bro?
They can find me on Instagram and Twitter at It's a Thomas Thing. That's capital I, TSA, capital T, HOMAS, capital THING. That's how you can find me on Twitter. It's all lowercase on IG. Ladies, we were super fine at this Hall of Fame. If you have listened to this point, just know there's a little bit of eye candy. You know, I know that,
no.
you know, I had to put it out there because we were spiffy. We got some looks at the Hall of Fame. People were telling about how dope we looked. We had our haircuts and everything. So
I mean, I ain't gonna argue.
So, you know, be sure to follow us on social media. We have a lot of pictures from the event. You know, just talking about our experience, things like that. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, thank you guys for your support. Thank you for everybody that's subscribed to the podcast already. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Anchor. And, you know, if you made it this far, thank you again for your support. And as always, thank you for listening to JWJ.
We are out. Leave those opinions on game 5, guys, and make sure you follow us. Make sure you tune in. Thank you for the love. Good night.